I'm possible. It's time to lift your spirit. And Jill Berlin is here to motivate and inspire you. Welcome to the Jill Berlin Show.
To the Jill Berlin Show. I am so sorry, but my voice is not working today. But that's all right. We're going to keep going with this anyway. We're going to start with our positive quote of the day, which I feel like, Kevin, you should read it. Can you read that for me?
Oh, big question here. The people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do, by Steve Jobs.
Okay. So you are in, Kevin von der Libbe. You are in, you're the director of HR products with Catapult.
Yes.
And so make sure you talk into the microphone so everyone can hear you. And I wanted you to tell me a little bit about your background and what you do and how you you came to this position, because something that you do is you make sure that you have that people who go and work with employers are safe. The employees, the employers, they're all safe with background checks. But tell us a little bit about your background first.
Sure. Well, I work for a company called Catapult Employers Association. That is a company that's been around for over 70 years right here in the Triad and across the state of North Carolina. We serve employers all over the Southeast, actually all over the country, trying to help them with HR issues and compliance issues, make them a better employer. My particular job there is I'm over all of our for-fee products, things like benefit admin stuff like Martha Barker was on your program earlier. We do electronic I-9s. We do background checks. And I'm also over our detective agency. Our detective agency specializes in background checking. It's been around since 1966. And I've worked with the detective agency as the lead of that for 29 years now.
And so, you know, something that I feel like that I find is that we feel like we live in this protective bubble, but in reality, you know, you start doing some background checks and you really don't know people the way that you think you do.
That's correct. I mean, reason employers do background checks is because it's basically a risk analysis, right? They're trying to attract and retain the best people they can. And part of that process is to screen them to make sure that they're a good fit, not only from a skill set and an education set, but also that they are safe and will not create extra liability for the employer. That also has an added benefit of making the other employees safe too.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was going to say, well, so I'm volunteering as a coach at the YMCA and they just did a background check on me. I passed. And what is the impact on the applicants?
Well, I mean, I think the big impact is that it could be a barrier to a job. And it's not necessarily the record that stops people. It's how they manage that issue that they may have. Most employers that I work with are very forgiving. They realize that companies need to protect themselves, but they also realize that people make mistakes. And so if you are a person who has a previous criminal record, the best thing I can tell you to do is to be forthright about it, be upfront, and be prepared to explain how you're reformed. I think that that's a big thing. Most employers want to keep their candidate pool as large as possible, and so they're willing to give people a second chance.
Well, tell us a little bit about myth versus reality and how that works.
Well, I mean, I think most people think that they watch too much TV,
Yeah.
right? And that you can plug in a name and, you know, pictures of them walking down the sidewalk pop up and everybody's looking at social media posts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
In reality, most companies are only looking at what they think is job related. So that's going to be criminal records. And that's usually criminal records in light of what the job responsibilities are. They will look at things like employment records or employment references. They'll look at education if that's important. A lot of companies look at driving records for those people that drive because that's really a big liability for an employer.
Yeah. Well, that's a big topic for me because I have a 15-year-old who is driving around.
Oh, boy.
I know. It's fun, though. I love it. Okay. Tell us a little bit about, common questions about like CBD oil and hemp. I don't really know a lot about this stuff,
So,
but I know that there's a lot of people who are worried about that.
well, there's a lot going on with that, and that's been a changing target here in North Carolina. THC, which is the active ingredient in marijuana, is illegal. It's illegal on the federal level. However, a lot of people use products that contain some level of THC. In North Carolina, you're allowed to use some of these products, but they've got to have a very, very small percentage in there. We had a really interesting case that rolled through our federal courts here in North Carolina, where a good employee was terminated from her job because she used these CBD oil products that had too much active ingredient in it. The federal courts upheld the employer's right to not keep her. And I think it shocked a lot of people. There was a couple really interesting TV segments on the aftermath of that. And, unfortunately, there is no regulation on those sort of hemp-related products. And so you got to be very careful if you're using that and your employer wants to do a drug test.
Tell us a little bit about FCRA and some of the state laws.
Yeah. So one of the things that most people don't realize is that the background checks as a whole are highly regulated. And in 1997, the Congress changed the Federal Fair Credit Reporting Act to include all of the employment stuff. Before, it was just focused on credit reports, things that your lender might use. But Congress looked at it and said, well, your job's a financial transaction.
Mm-hmm.
And so now the Fair Credit Reporting Act encompasses much more than what most people think of the word credit. It's more like the word credit means reputation than finances now. And so when an employer looks at a person's history, doesn't matter if it's criminal history or work history or driving records or whatever it is, it's going to fall under the Federal Fair Credit Reporting Act. That employer has to have a permissible purpose. That's always easy. It's for employment. They also have to get permission from you before they can run the background check. And then if they get the background check back, if it's clean, they're done with that law. But if there's something negative and they hold that, or they consider holding that against you, then they have to alert you to that. And they do that by sending out paperwork that says who compiled the report, how you can dispute the report, a summary of your rights under the federal law, and a copy of the report. And the reason for that is because there are mistakes occasionally. Mm-hmm. There are people who are victims of identity theft. There are people who share the same name and date of birth. And so if you don't do that, somebody could have a negative consequence, not based on their actions, but somebody else's.
Now, I do a lot of group insurance, and so I help a lot of, various employers. And then a common question that I get is, how does AI and automation play into this?
Well, that's certainly where the world's moving to.
Yeah.
I think that AI and automation is certainly making the employer's job easier when it comes to screening applicants. A lot of them use these large, what they call applicant tracking systems that sort through things like Indeed or LinkedIn and cull the resumes and the applications. There have been some interesting lawsuits against some of those companies for biases that are baked into it. So I think you need to make sure that if you're an applicant that you're taking your time to reach out to the employer and make sure that you're being seen. I think ultimately one of the things that's going to happen is that background checks in some ways are going to be put in the hands of the applicants themselves with this blockchain technology. Blockchain technology is a way that you can encrypt and store data that travels with you. And think about Bitcoin. That's all managed by blockchain technology. So that's coming. I think biometric verifications are coming to eventually. Your iPhone looks at your face and unlocks. I think that there'll be a time where that's going to be with your
excuse
bless
me.
you. will also come with when you do video interviews and things like that. That's all coming.
All right. And one of the biggest things that I want to hone in on, and if you're a teenager, you're hopefully in school, but this is very important. Social media. How does social media play into this?
So social media is one of these things that everybody's worried about. I will tell you, in my personal experience working with the large number of clients that I have, not a lot of them do social media searches, right? But I say that with a caveat that there are jobs that require it, right? So if you're going to be in a public office or you're going to be in a high visibility job, your employer is likely to look at that at some level. They still have to follow the Fair Credit Reporting Act and all that sort of stuff, but social media, you ought to be aware of what you have on social media, and you should edit it. Your social media presence should be curated for sure.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. Is there any trends that employers should watch for? And we've got about 1 minute left.
Okay. Well, I think there are a lot of things that are happening right now. There's a lot of viewpoints on the EEOC, which is the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission's enforcement of Title VII. That's a changing thing. So that's something that companies are going to have to keep up with. I think continuous monitoring is certainly a trend that's happening now. You just said that you did a background check involving students. That's very common to keep an eye and try to protect the children. So I think that those are probably the biggest trends right now. I would say if you're an employer and you got questions about are you compliant, feel free to reach out to me at Catapult. Tell me that you heard us on Jill Berlin Show, and I'll help you the best I can.
Oh, thanks for that. All right. If people want to get in touch, where do they go? How do they get in touch?
So our website is www.letscatapult.org. That's LETSCATAPULT.org. Our main number is 336-668-7746.
Okay, perfect. Kevin, thank you so much for coming in. We certainly appreciate that. All right, stay tuned. You get to listen to my voice some more and hear about some health insurance. This is